There's going to be a moment where it gets hard. When we start to make a change in our behavior, we are essentially cutting off or starving out that existing feedback loop in our brains. When we start to starve that off, we become uncomfortable. Our brain will say, hey, this is not satisfactory. This is the moment when many people will quit. Welcome back to She Rises. My name's Krista Vieira, and this episode today is a mantra or a shout out to every single person out there who is doing the work and hasn't yet seen the result. And, you know, one of the things that happens when we go on this path where we start to dream a little bit, where we start to work towards something, is that there's this period of time where we don't see anything change. There's this period of time where we are putting in unseen work that nobody else knows about. Work that nobody else is ever going to see. They're never going to know that you decided to wake up 15 minutes early today so that you could do a workout. They're never going to know that you bit your lip before you responded to something that somebody said. They're never going to know that you took a deep breath. There is so much work that's being done under the surface by you to achieve your dreams, your goals. But beyond even just your dreams and goals, there's work that's happening in this moment that no one is ever going to give you credit for or thank you for. And so if we are going to go on this path where we say, you know what, I want to be experiencing something different in life. Maybe right now you feel a certain lack of fulfillment in some area of your life. I work with 6 pillars in my program, Elevation Method. And these are your health and your well-being, and that's on a mental, physical, emotional level. We also work with relationships in terms of the relationship that we have with ourselves. That's the first and foremost, most important relationship. Relationship with spirit or source. Relationship with your partner or your children, the people who are closest to you in your life. Relationship with colleagues. Basically, the most important relationships that you have in life. We work with your time, how you schedule yourself, your feeling of fulfillment in terms of how you're investing that time and the return on that investment that you're getting. We work with abundance, not just in terms of money, although money is certainly a part of it. Most people out there have a scarcity money story. And so we work with money in terms of abundance, but also just abundance. Lynn Twist, she has a beautiful book called The Soul of Money. And in that book, she defines abundance as knowing that you have enough, which is a really powerful definition when you go into it. So that's not just enough money, that's enough resources, enough time, that feeling of fulfillment or enoughness inside of you. That's really what she's getting at there. And we also work with soul purpose, which is essentially what it is that you feel in your heart that you're here to do. Some people have never asked this question. What am I here for? What am I put on this planet to do? What is my reason for being? What is my purpose here on this planet? But for us in this program, we want to dive into this because there is something to uncover when we ask that question of ourselves. And so then the other aspect that we lean into is our career, what it is that we do in the world, what it is that our work here is to do. Some people are retired, they don't have a job anymore, but they still have something that they're doing. They have something they're contributing or something that they're living into. For some of you, you have a business. For some of you, you work for someone else. And so there's that exchange going on. And because that usually takes up a third of your day, if you're working 8 hours a day, that's 1/3 out of the 24 hours. That's a huge investment of your time. So if you're doing something that feels like it's sucking the life out of you, then that is probably going to result in that feeling of lack of fulfillment in terms of an exchange of your energy for what's coming back. Even if you're highly paid, it doesn't necessarily balance out in the end. And so we look at these 6 different areas. And so why I'm bringing this up is because when you decide and you get to a point in your life where you say, what else is there? What more is there for me? I'm doing all of the things, I'm living my life, I'm going through the motions, but I feel like there's something more. You start to look at what you're doing in terms of your habits. You start to look at where you're spending and investing your time. You start to look at how it is that you're showing up in the world. And sometimes you start to say, you know what? I want to see a change. I want to see a shift. I'm no longer satisfied to keep doing the same thing that I've been doing, even if it's been bringing me good return. And I actually am very satisfied with my life. life up until now. I really love the life that I'm living. There starts to sometimes be this niggling feeling. And because of that, we often start to make these small shifts. The problem is when we make small shifts that put us into discomfort. So say you start to wake up earlier, you start going to the gym, you start to avoid those foods that you used to go to for comfort, but that aren't serving your wellness goals, and you start to go towards healthier options. There is this gap in reward. So in the brain, we have this feedback loop system, and in Atomic Habits by James Clear, he goes into this quite a bit. And what he will say is that what happens is that we have a feedback loop where we get this cue, which is, I would really love to eat something that tastes really good. I want to have ice cream, or I want to have chips. I want to have the thing that I've been going to for a long time. So we get this cue, and then instantly we get a craving, which is, I want to fulfill that cue. I feel like I want that. And we get this hit of dopamine. Our brain gets this beautiful like rush of dopamine. And we are very addicted to this sensation, where our brains are very addicted to this process playing out. And so then what happens is we seek out that response. We say, okay, what do I need to do to fulfill that? That seems really good. I'm getting dopamine. I would like more of that. And so we go in search of that. So we go to the store to get chips, or we decide to go to our freezer and find the ice cream. And then when we eat it, we get the reward, is that we fulfilled that feedback loop in our brain. We've got a second hit of dopamine once we're consuming it. And this is how we are wired. So our brains are wired to get this consistent response coming in. And so what happens is that when we start to make a change in our behavior, we are essentially cutting off or starving out that existing feedback loop in our brains. And just as a precursor here, I am not a brain scientist. This is just the information that I have read and understood based off of studying habits from people who are very well learned in this regard. And what my understanding is that when we start to starve that off, we become uncomfortable. And because we're not getting that reward, our brain will say, hey, this is not satisfactory. This is the moment when many people will quit, right? The alarm goes off and you think about getting up versus staying in bed for that extra 15 minutes or half an hour, or however long it's going to be. And now you've got a choice to make. And the choice is, I can go with the discomfort here, and I can have that lack of fulfillment, and I can do the hard thing, and I won't get rewarded for it yet, because guess what? That new neural pathway is not yet built in your brain. It doesn't exist yet. And the choice is between that and hitting the snooze button, going back to bed, staying where it's warm and comfortable, not getting uncomfortable. And the brain starts to, it has this choice to make. And most of the time, what it will do is it'll say, you know what, we haven't seen the reward yet for waking up in the morning. We haven't seen the payoff. Even if you've done it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, there's going to be a moment where it gets hard. Some people are really good at sticking with something for a few days, and then all of a sudden, one day they make the opposite decision. They decide to go to the comfort, or they decide, you know what, for whatever reason, it's not going to work out for me to get out of bed this morning. So they don't do it, and they break that pattern that they were starting to build. They break that neural network, and they right back to where they were before. And this is why it's so hard to change our patterns. This is why it's so hard to shift our habits and behaviors into something new, is because we are not wired for discomfort. We're not wired to do the difficult thing, to see out the journey without getting the reward. We want the reward, and the brain is seeking that chemical feedback. It's looking for that dopamine to say, hey, you're doing the right thing. You're on the right track. So when you're shifting from one habit to another, there is this phase in between that's kind of no man's land. This is where the work has to happen. This is where the work sets in. And I want you to know, if you are currently in the process of trying to shift your habits, if you're currently in process of trying to build a new neural network, I want you to know that you can do it. And I also want you to know that if it's not feeling great, if it kind of feels like it sucks right now, you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing. Anybody who tells you that building habits is easy is lying to you, because we are not wired for that. We are not wired for that. We're wired for those quick hits of dopamine. We're wired for the patterns that we have created over time, that even if we don't like them, we keep doing them because it's serving something in us. Even if they're really not the patterns and habits that we want, not the behaviors that are going to help us to achieve our visions and our goals and our dreams. We're wired for them. And that's why it's so hard to break them. What I want to impart, though, is that unseen work that you are doing, the hard part of getting up in the morning, 15 minutes earlier, an hour earlier than normal, showing up for yourself, whatever it might be, whether it's in the gym or whether it's pausing before reacting, trying to take conscious control of your emotional response and attachment to things. Noticing that you want to go and grab the chips when you're hungry and you just want that little craving fill, but you're going for something else. Maybe you're choosing protein or you're choosing a healthier snack because you know you want to do better and you know that you want to grow. And you know that you weren't put here just to keep living out patterns that ultimately lead to deeper and deeper dissatisfaction. You know that you're here for more than that. I want you to know you're in the right place. And there are many people like you out there who are seeking something better for themselves and are breaking patterns and breaking habits and breaking behaviors that don't serve them, and they're choosing something else. So if no one has said it to you today, if no one has said it to you this week, if no one has said it to you this year, I want you to know I see you and I see the work that you're doing. I too do not settle for mediocrity in my life. I think it's so important that we put ourselves into uncomfortable spaces if we are desiring to grow, if we want to see ourselves transition. If we are even at our peak right now, but we say, you know what else? What's the next level? Maybe you're waking up early. Maybe you're doing the things that you want to be doing. Maybe you're waking up early is just an example, by the way. I'm not trying to raise that above anything else. It's just an example of something that's hard. When we start to look around and say, you know what, I just know that there's another level for myself. There's something else I want to live into, and I want to find out what that's like. I don't want to get to the end of my life and be full of regret. I don't want to get to the end of my life and wish I had made a different choice. I don't want to get to the end of my life and look back and wish I had taken different paths or spent more time. There's a pretty famous kind of repertoire out there when we look at people who are, on that last leg of life. When they look back, most people do not look back and say, I wish I hadn't done that. Most people, when they're looking back, will say, I wish I had done more of the things that challenged me. I wish I had done more of the things that were difficult. I wish I had took the chance. I wish I had taken the risk. I wish I had tried that. I wish I had gone there. There isn't a lack of things that people wish they have done. There is a lack of people who have done all of the things that they wanted to do. So you have to ask yourself which camp you want to be in at the end of your life. And I just want to say, this is a very inward experience. We all have different things that inspire us. We have different things that we want to lean into. We have different things that we want to experience while we're here. Our journey here is giving us an opportunity to really lean into our outer layers. We have this comfort zone that's wrapped around us. And when we start to poke at the comfort zone and realize, oh, I've got resistance to this, or that's going to be a challenge for me, we have the option to say, not today. We have the option to say, that's not for me. I'm not going to lean into that. The other option, though, is to say, what's beyond my comfort zone? My current comfort zone, it's only taking me so far. What if my journey here, what if part of my experience here is to really discover who I am when I keep transcending my comfort zone and I lean into my highest potential? Not because I'm going to get an award, not because anybody out there is going to look at me and say, oh, look at the life that they lived, but because you as a human being simply don't want to leave any life left on the table unlived when you get to the end of it. If you close your eyes at the end of the day and you say, you know what? I wouldn't have changed anything about today. Every opportunity to laugh, I laughed. Every opportunity to be kind, I was kind. Every opportunity to tell somebody that I love them, I said it. I did the thing I wanted to do. I showed up for myself. I noticed my patterns. I started to lean into presence in my life. So we have this opportunity. We can't change a pattern if we're living in our heads, if we're living in the past or the future. We can't change anything in the present moment because we are not here. But when we truly decide to be present and we say, what about this moment? This one moment, this one existing moment that we are in right here, right now. This is it. This is the only opportunity I have to do anything. 95% of what we do, it's been shown we're predetermined to do because of our patterning and past conditioning. 95% of what we do is predetermined. That means most of us have 5% of our day is an opportunity to make changes, to be creative, to switch gears, to choose outside of our comfort zone. What would your life look like if you normalized that? What would your life look like if 95% of your day you were here, in the now, in the present? 95% of your day you were in this moment, choosing consciously what you would love. And 5% was the patterning and the conditioning that went unchecked. How would that change your day? How would that change your life? So if you are currently in the trenches where you are doing the hard thing, and it's hard because there's no feedback loop, there's no dopamine, there's nobody cheering you on. In fact, people around you, even people who really love you, might be offering some shade and telling you, I don't know why you're doing that. Really, I just want to remind you that when people don't support you, it's because something about what you're doing is challenging their patterns, their beliefs about themselves and what they can achieve. It's challenging them in their routines. It has nothing to do with you. You are just holding up a mirror that they could be different, that they could be choosing differently from themselves and they're not. So if somebody's giving you shade, I want to give you the permission to just set that right down. If you are pursuing something for yourself, if you are looking for greater peace, if you are looking for greater fulfillment, if you are not willing to get to the end of your life and look back with regret, you are doing yourself and everyone else a great service. You being here, choosing for you. Why else are you here if not to live into your fullest potential, if not to make new choices, if not to grow? This is why we have memory, is so that we can look back and say, if there's something I don't want to repeat, if there's a pattern I don't want to see play out again, I can choose differently. Most people avoid change. They avoid discomfort. They want to stay where even when they don't like it, at least it's familiar. But there's another part of us, and I believe that it lives in all of us, whether we activate it or not. There's another part of us that says, I would like to see what I'm capable of. I would like to really know if I was to 100% get behind myself and really believe in myself and my capability, what would my life look like? What could I attempt, even fail at, and still live to tell the tale and grow from that experience and carry that learning and that wisdom and that knowledge into the next moment of my life? You can look back on your life with regret or with a great peace, knowing that you lived into it with every intention, with as much potential as possible. So if you're in the trenches, you're doing the hard thing, kudos to you, keep going. Not only are you changing your trajectory, you're raising your frequency, you're raising your vibration. You're not allowing yourself to fall into the habits and the patterns and all of the conditioning that is keeping you in a low vibration, but not just even in a low vibration, but is when you're living your life, that feeling of not quite meeting your own expectation. When you raise your own standard, even if you miss it, you're going to step higher. You're going to bring out more of your potential. It's not about hitting your mark all of the time. It's about trying and learning. So even if you're trying and failing, you're trying. And that is a step further forward. You know, one thing, my brother, when he was younger, my brother is a year younger than me. When he was younger, I remember there was lots of people who wanted to play on sports teams with him. And so and I'm talking about play pick up baseball at the park type of thing. And the one thing that my brother would say is, he said, you know, it doesn't matter how well skilled anybody who wants to play on my team is. The only thing I care about is that you try. And if you tried, if you put in the effort, my brother, he wanted you on his team. So this is the same thing, is when you put in the effort, it doesn't matter whether or not you hit the mark. You are naturally going to progress by continuing to put out effort. So keep going. Keep putting your effort out. If you want to see things change in your life on any level, spiritual, emotional, physical, mental, circumstantial, if you want to see anything change, you've got to do things differently. And this is where it starts. So thank you for listening today. I hope some part of this resonated with you. If you like this, please share it with a friend. Please feel free to subscribe, and we will see you very soon.